What is populist? The term populist is often used pejoratively to criticize politicians for pandering to a people's fears and enthusiasm. Depending on one view of populism, a populist economic program can therefore signify either a platform that promotes the interests of common citizens and the country as a whole, or a platform that seeks to redistribute wealth to gain popularity, without regards to consequences for the country such as inflation or debt. And what is populist leaders? Populist leaders is revolved around a charismatic leaders who appeal to and claims to embody the wills of people in order to consolidate his own power. In this personalized form of politics, political parties lose their importance and elections serve to confirm the leader's authority rather than to reflect the different allegiance of the people. Authoritarian populists have been characterized by the extreme nationalism, racism, conspiracy mongering, and scapegoating of marginalized groups, each of which serve to consolidate the leader's powers, to distract public attention from the leader's failure, or to conceal from the people the nature of leaders' role or the real cause of economic or social problems. In the second half of the 20th century, populism came to be identified with the political style and program of Latin American leaders such as Juan Perón, Getulio Vargas, and Hugo Chavez. In the early 21st century, populist authoritarian regimes arose in Turkey, Poland, and Hungary, among other countries.
Let's move on to the populist leader in Southeast Asia. These are the list names of the populist leader in Southeast Asia. First is Tun Dr. Mahathir from Malaysia. Second is Thaksin Shinawatra from Thailand. Third is Min Aung Hlaing from Myanmar. And last but not least is Rodrigo Duterte from Philippines. I rather choose Thaksin Shinawatra as a main topic in this video. Thaksin Shinawatra is a Thai politician. He also known as a businessman who served as a former Prime Minister of Thailand in 2001 until 2006. He was born on 26 of July 1949 in Chiang Mai, Thailand. Focusing on his educational background, he was graduated from the Police Cadet Academy in 1973. He won a scholarship to study criminal justice at Eastern Kentucky University in the United States. On his return to Thailand, Thaksin first taught at the Police Cadet Academy before being tapped for special duties in the office of Prime Minister Sami Pramoch. He returned back to the United States, completed a doctorate at Sam Houston, Texas State University. Back in Thailand, he worked in police planning and public relations positions and adapted in computer technology. In 1987, he ran his business in the computer field alongside with his wife Pajamon. After that, Thaksin, who campaigned on a populist form, led his newly created Thai Rak Thai party to a convincing win in national elections on January 6, 2001. Thai Rak Thai party won the national election and Thaksin Shinawatra was appointed as a former Prime Minister of Thailand by King Bhumibol Adulyadej on February 9.
Next, we will move to the action as leader. As a leader, he is responsible to be the head of the government. Thaksin is ultimately responsible for the failings and performance of the ministers and the government as a whole. He has reformed the administrative by restructuring of government departments and ministries. The restructuring was designed to streamline the bureaucracy and focus it on performance and results. Besides that, he also founded the Thai Rak Thai Party, which means Thai Loves Thai Party. As a leader, he has succeeded in doing campaign extensively to make sure his party back into power. He also responsible to shape the foreign policy. He initiated negotiations for several free trade agreements with China, Australia, Bahrain, India, and the United States. Thailand also joined the United States-led invasion of Iraq, sending a 423-strong humanitarian contingent. Furthermore, he also is very keen to take care of his people's welfare. Thaksin has launched programs to reduce poverty, expand infrastructure, promote small and medium-sized enterprises, and universal healthcare coverage. In the early 2000s, Thaksin government passed a health initiative that allows any Thai citizen to see a doctor for 30 baht, which equal to 75 cents, including services, tests, and medicines. As a leader also, he is responsible to provide a modern and adequate infrastructure for his citizens. For an example, he initiated the controversial One District, One Dream School project aimed at developing the quality of school to ensure that every district had at least one high-quality school. Other than that, Thaksin also has established numerous policies for the stability of politics, economy, and social. Taxonomics policy, for an instance, that has been introduced by Thaksin has succeeded helping Thailand in survive in the 1997 Asian financial crisis. Thailand's GDP also has grew from 4.9 trillion baht in 2001 to 7.1 trillion baht in 2006. Under Thaksin's economic policy, it also has succeeded to repay its debts to the International Monetary Fund 2 years ahead of schedule. The most recognizable actions of Thaksin as a leader of Thailand is to declare war on drugs, in which more than 2,500 people were killed. All in all, it is clearly showed that Thaksin's action was aimed to create national champion that could reliably support stronger economic growth and become the main key players in regional area.
Thaksin have introduced various policies during his being the leader of Thailand. The policy of the government as delivered by His Excellency Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra during National Assembly February 26, 2001. There are 16 policies introduced by him, which consist of the efficiency, renewable energy, environment, energy supply, and infrastructure and technology. For example, the urgent policies, economic policy, income creation policy, communications policy, natural resources and environmental policy, energy policy, social policy, education, religion and cultural policy, national security, foreign policy, public safety, and the others. So basically, all the policies introduced by Thaksin Shinawatra was to enhance, improve, and making development in the field of the policy introduced by him. Thaksin's policies included microfinance loans of 1 million baht per village, debt suspension for farmers, fuel subsidies, infrastructure investments, and a landmark universal health care bill. Thaksin's policies were effective at reducing rural poverty and at providing affordable health coverage to the people. Sonny Lim Tongkul, that leading the Yellow Shirt movement, charged that policies by Thaksin brought off the rural poor people who had insufficient education to truly understand how populist politicians can abuse power, while another of opposition party, Anek Lautamatas, who is the leader of Mahakon Party, said that Thaksin's policy as irresponsible and dishonest, accusing the rural masses of lacking not just the education but also the ethical belief to withstand populism.
Thaksin Shinawatra, as a populist leader, does not steer away from controversies. One of the most well-known controversies surrounding Thaksin is his alleged corruption. This occurred in 2008 when he was found guilty of corruption in connection with a land deal. He was accused of breaking conflict of interest guidelines by assisting his wife Pujaman in purchasing land from a state agency at a lower price. Both fled to England but were extradited back to Thailand, where Thaksin was ordered to serve his sentence and face other corruption allegations by the court. He was Thailand's first prime minister as well as politician to be convicted of corruption.
So what is populism? Populism, according to Cosmart, is a thin-centered ideology that considers society to be ultimately separated into two homogeneous and antagonistic groups, which is the pure people versus the corrupt elite, and which argues that politics should be an expression of the general will of the people. Populism here is first and foremost a set of ideas characterized by an antagonism between the people and the elite, as well as the primacy or popular sovereignty, whereby the virtuous general will was placed in opposition to the moral corruption of elite actors. Two of the most influential scholars who studied the concept of populism are Ernesto Leclerc and Margaret Canavan. They have identified two key features of the populist, which is the first one is a direct appeal to the people, and the second one is anti-elitism, which is the attack against an opponent. Canavan argues that populism in modern democracies is best seen as an appeal to the people against both the established structure of power and the dominant ideas and values of the society. In this section, I will explain a little bit about a populist leader. A populist leader can be defined as the dominant figures who present themselves as the voice of the people. In book The Global Rise of Populism, Dr. Moffitt argues that there are other traits associated with a typical populist leader. One is bad manners or behaving in a way that's not typical of politicians. Meanwhile, according to Prof. Nadia Urbinati from Columbia University, she mentioned that a populist leader who gets into power is forced to be in a permanent campaign to convince his people that he is not establishment and never will be. So, that is why populist leaders are often viewed with suspicion, and the term is used as a type of insult politician who promises too much. In order to garner support, they are quicker than establishment party to make offers or to promise to change things. So, in case of Thaksin Shinawatra, a former Prime Minister of Thailand, he was labeled as a populist leader. According to Markov and Lassault, Thaksin has very low levels of populism in his first-term administration, but that jumps to just below the middle of the scale on his second term. The reason why Thaksin Shinawatra was labeled as a populist leader is the first one, Thaksin's discourse indeed divided society into two opposing groups. The first group, the non-privileged people, and the second one is the elite, including aristocracy and royalists. Other than that, he also managed to convince majority of society, especially the poor and lower classes, to follow him faithfully. So, there is no doubt that the discourse of Thaksin organized according to an antagonistic schema.
And I'll go